Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the EEARSS Podcast, produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. I am Frank. That is Bill. That is Cindy. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
You look concerned, Bill.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. Our student isn't here today, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
That's always a good idea.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea. Sometimes it happens.
Yep.
Yeah. She's been here for so long helping us this year. It's unusual to look in there in the control room and not see her there.
Yep. So.
Yep.
Trying to figure it out.
So over the weekend, we had the Super Bowl of Trivia for the Women's Center.
Yes.
Tell me about y'all's experience. Because all I got to do the entire time was sit up there and harass people. So it was. I'd like to hear y'all's.
You are a natural at harassing people. You did great.
Bill, how'd you feel your team?
Oh, it was great.
You finished second.
We finished second. Yeah.
Out of 20 teams.
I had my family, my two brothers and their wives, and some friends of mine as a team, and they are hooked. They enjoyed it very much, and they want to come back. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
It went really well. It was a great night.
Did you guys ever get a number on how much money you raised?
I don't have that answer.
Okay. Well, I hope it was a good night.
I have been on vacation all week, so
that's right. You guys were over. Wait a second. Don't tell me you guys were in the center part of the state, below Kissimmee, below St. Cloud. You were Lake Wells Ridge.
Yes.
Yes, that's a beautiful part of the world.
Were you really?
Yeah. It was my first time going there. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's a snaky place.
I just saw.
Yes, yes, it is. We saw several.
Oh, yep.
I was not prepared.
What kind did you see?
I don't know.
The
they
slithery kind. Yeah.
Oh my garage, you guys are killing me.
They weren't walking; they were slithering. If that helps.
See, the guy we're talking
lots
to,
of gators.
The fellow we're talking to today is also a herping guy as
Really?
well. So yeah, he's gonna be like, so what kind of snakes? What they look like? Give me a breakdown.
Just saw a thing online about the Lake Wales
Ridge. Yeah,
and I'd never heard of that. And then you were there.
It's one of the few places you can actually see an indigo snake these days.
Okay.
One of the few places they're actually left.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they're left in other places, but not in the numbers they are there.
I did see a couple that could have been indigo, but I can't tell the difference between an indigo and a black racer.
Black racers,
to me, they
thin,
look the same.
with a white chin, and the indigo's big and bulky and shiny.
I didn't get a visual on the chin.
You gotta start.
It
starts with snuggling. You have to snuggle them,
yes.
and then they
you have to tickle his chin
and let them
that.
whisper sweet nothings to you. They whisper the sweet nothings to you, not the other way around.
Oh, see, that's where I always go wrong.
I'm telling you, that's how it goes.
No, I don't think I'm touching it. I'm not doing it.
All right, so you guys ready to jump into the conversation with our guest today? I am super duper excited about this.
Let's do it.
All right, today on the podcast, we are joined by Dr. Norman Beatty from the University of Florida. Thank you so much for being here, Doc.
Hey, gang. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and really glad that we could connect.
I'm always watching different things in the scientific community, kind of different things that pop out, different papers, things that come up. And I saw your name on this recent study that came out, and I was like, wow, I have to reach out and find this guy. This is going to be a very interesting conversation due to your background, and you have some passions that we have in common, and just the way you were looking at things throughout this paper. I was like, this is going to be a very interesting guy. So tell us a little bit about what you do and where you work at. We'll start there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm up here in Gainesville. I'm an assistant professor of medicine. I'm an infectious disease doctor by trade, but my focus is neglected tropical diseases, and I study diseases that are, impacting kind of vulnerable people or rural people around the world, especially in the tropics, and here in Florida. And I grew up in rural Central Florida, and I know you guys are down in Titusville area. I grew up in Osceola County,
okay,
south of St. Cloud, and so I know that area very well. And so along my path, I chose to kind of just take on these diseases because someone needs to do the research, someone needs to focus on it. So that's where snake envenomation and me align, as well as I'm kind of a amateur herper myself, growing up in the swamps and catching snakes my whole life, and it continued on my training out west in Arizona. So that's a little bit about myself.
When you grew up over there, did you ever get to stop by Reptile World Serpentarium and see George Van Horn?
Oh man, who hasn't been over there? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, multiple times. Used to still have vivid memories of bringing snakes over there and donating them and just
Yeah, a
watching
legend.
his show. He's
Yep,
a
truly,
legend.
truly a legend in the reptile world, and we're blessed to call him a dear friend here. He's a great guy. So
Awesome.
early in your career, what led you toward infectious diseases? What pushed you that direction? Was there? Do you remember a moment that's kind of made you go, this is where the path is going to go, and this is why I'm going this way?
Oh yeah, that's a cool question. And thought about it often. I can remember even being like 5, 6 years old. My grandfather gave me this microscope, and I was collecting pond water and looking under the microscope at these little organisms swimming along in the water, and my fascination for microbiology kind of started there and continued on. I went to UCF. I studied microbiology, and that just stuck with me. And whenever you train in medicine, you've got to decide like what you like. And so I kind of went down different avenues, but I always kind of went back to these microbes and what they do to our bodies, and how advanced they are and how intelligent they are. And I tell people all the time in the hospital, bacteria are smarter than us human beings. They've been here so much longer. And I couldn't steer away from it, actually. So it was easy for me to make this decision, and every day's a new adventure. There's always some new pathogen or organism that causes infection in people, viruses and bacteria, parasites, fungus. They're always changing. So every day I'm studying and learning new things, and I just enjoy that. So it was an easy thing for me to commit to.
So you said you studied microbiology at UCF?
I did, yeah. Some great times over there.
So when you jumped from UCF to UF, what made you go from microbiology to infectious diseases? What really pushed you that direction on that choice?
Sure. So a lot of my training was at the University of Arizona in Tucson, Southern Arizona.
Okay.
And one of my mentors was the chief of the infectious disease department at the time. And he really triggered my curiosity for infectious diseases through his practice and through the vector-borne disease scene, or the bugs that cause infection. So I really dove into it from there, and I study entomology as well. I study insects that cause infectious diseases or transfer them to other people, and it's just for me, whenever you choose a field like this, you have to be passionate about it and love it. And so for me, I just love doing this. So kind of easy for me to do every day.
Yeah, no joke. Now, Cindy and I, when we were starting this off, we noticed that you were looking at Chagas disease a little bit in your research. It's funny to me, I know we studied that, and through my biomedical degree as we were going through it, but there's still so many people that have never heard of that, and so many of these infectious diseases that it's weird how they just kind of go unnoticed, but yet there's such a big ordeal throughout the entire world. Why do you think that? Where do you think the disconnect is on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you picked up on Chagas. That's kind of my passion for what I study. I study the bug, parasite, clinical disease.
Which is a terrifying critter. That is an absolutely terrifying critter.
Sure, and you got them right over there.
Yes,
We've got
we
them
do.
in Florida. Actually, we're one of our papers is in press right now, or preprint. In our kind of assessment we did throughout the whole state, and we found the parasite in 30% of our bugs. So we've got bugs right from Brevard County, Osceola County, and this.
Wow.
And so
I
I'm growing
remember
the
just
parasite.
10 years
T.
ago.
cruzi Gainesville strain is growing right now as we speak. So we've got a lot more going on in the future to talk about. But why are these diseases neglected? Like, why are people, not aware of them? And when I travel, I do a lot of my research outside of Florida, in Latin America and Mexico and Colombia and Argentina. I get a chance to go and be in these villages where kissing bugs are invading people's homes, and to the jungles, and you know, and to see these things. But I talk to the people, I get to know the people and understand their culture. And what is the disconnect? Like, for example, my kids are in elementary school, middle school. You know, they're not being taught about these things. They're not being taught about vector-borne diseases or common infections in community. Whereas when I go to Colombia and I talk to elementary school kids, they're being taught about Zika and dengue and tuberculosis. They're being taught about Chagas disease. You know, and so the disconnect, I think, starts really early on in life. And even here at the medical school, you know, I teach our medical students about infectious diseases. And, you know, when I started here 6 years ago, we you know, I found out quickly that there was no lectures on Chagas disease, and I said, well, we're going to stop that.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
And so we've got the Chagas Champions lecture every year. We have a whole hour-long dedication on Chagas, and sometimes I bring patients, I bring bugs, and it has had led to an effect on some of our students, and they're graduating, they're going into different fields, and they're calling me saying, hey, I diagnosed a case, you know, somewhere in the country. And
so
you know,
briefly for our audience who may not know,
Yeah.
what is it? I mean, just assume that I know all about it. 'Cause
Yeah, Bill.
Sure, yeah. Let me give you the two-liner on Chagas real quick, and then we'll talk about snakes. But
Okay.
So Chagas is a parasitic infection. It can be spread from a bug. In the United States, we call it the kissing bug. But this parasite enters our body because of an interaction with the bug. The bug will bite us. It sucks our blood. Now, the parasite comes into our body not through the bite, but through the feces of the bug. So the bugs poop and pee. They do similar things like we do. The parasite exits the bug through that excreta or that urine or that feces. And if that gets on us or in a wound or as it's biting us, it drops the fecal material on our face or on our body. The parasite can get through the skin. Another way it can get into the body is through ingestion. So contaminated food and drink, you know, fresh fruit juices where the bug has been living, parasite can be ingested there. So once the parasite enters our body, it likes to go to certain places. It likes the heart. So the heart is the one major focus with this disease. And it takes decades for the heart to be impacted, but once it's impacted, it can cause cardiac arrest where the heart stops beating, can cause the heart to get weakened and enlarge. And so these are some of the things that I tackle is how to treat this, how to screen, test, and treat, link to care. And in Florida, we're really trying to pioneer some new programs because we have bugs here infected, plus we have people who have traveled or lived in the endemic areas of Latin America who have the disease as well. So a lot of cool things with Chagas right now, but hopefully that's sinking in with you guys in the audience.
So for those of us who have a very vivid imagination, and we now are convinced that we have it, what do we need to know?
Well, let's make it simple here.
Okay.
If you're a Floridian, all right, and you can, you know, go online and see a picture of this bug. It's a bug that once you see it once, you're like, oh, that's a kissing bug.
Oh, yeah.
If you have found that bug in your home, you know, you should be screened for Chagas, and that's in the guidelines that we have put out there.
So
and,
those of you at home, look it up and see if you've seen this bug. As soon as this is over, I'm looking it up.
It's a very, that bug stands out. They look, I don't know if do you garden? You don't garden.
No, I don't garden.
They look similar to assassin bugs, but their coloration is very different. They stand out.
Correct.
When you've seen one, you know.
And the difference, yeah, that's a great point. And there's a lot of lookalikes out there. There's similar kind of like order of insect, the assassin kind of families, the hemipteras. They look alike. But if you find this bug inside your home, a lot of these hemipteras or these assassin bugs are out in the garden. They're sucking juice out of aphids. They're not worried about humans. Kissing bugs want to suck your blood, so they try to invade your home. And we put a whole publication together for integrative pest management strategies to keep this bug out of your home. So, you know, I open the doors or the emails to anyone who wants to reach out to me. I get them all the time. Hey, you know, I'd like to be screened for Chagas, or hey, I found this bug. For me, I enjoy helping people, connect them for screening, treatment, all the things. We have people traveling to Gainesville to get tested all the time. So I'm glad that we've had this conversation. But we got to start talking about snakes here.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, we got to
please.
get to snakes.
I gotta stop like scratching and like I'm losing my mind over here.
Yeah.
It's like I have
Frank's
ticks all
over
over
here.
me or something.
He keeps looking at his arm.
Yeah, I'm like, please make it stop. There are not many bugs in the. No, there's not many animals of any kind on the planet that freak me out. That's one of them, and ticks. Those are the two things that I can't handle it. I lose my
okay.
mind. Yeah. So anyhow.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about this paper you guys just wrote and published, and you told us a little bit about your passion growing up with herps and working with snakes and catching snakes. How in the world did you take that from there to where you have it now? Because this is really amazing.
Oh yeah. So in the world of tropical medicine, there's a group of people who focus on snake envenomation. I mean, as you guys know, snake venom is a bit diverse depending on the species of snake and regions and different parts of the world. And so, my small circle of people who focus on envenomation and toxicology had the great pleasure of training in Tucson, where, it's probably one of the capitals of snake envenomation in the country. We've got the Arizona Poison Control Center there. I got to be a part of that and learn about, crotolid envenomation and all the rattlesnakes there. I've gone herping out there and some good dear friends out there I keep in contact with. But, when I transitioned to the University of Florida, I found that in our hospital here at Shands in Gainesville, I see a lot of folks from all over the state, and they're transferred from different hospitals. And some of them, are coming long distances. They've been envenomated, and, I get to see some of them in the hospital sometimes. But, I went into the literature. I said, hey, who's looked at this in Florida? And I've looked at some other studies in the United States, and there was really not much done here in Florida. A really great paper on coral snake envenomation, but hadn't been a single center study, just looking at like what's an experience like this university hospital here, like what's our experience with this. And one of my med students, River Grace, he's our first author, he grew up in Melbourne, Florida. He grew up right down the road from you guys, and his dad is a herpetologist. And we connected quickly in talking about our experiences. And I said, hey, River, why don't we look at this? Why don't we see if we can get this data? Got this whole wealth of data here in this health system. Let's get approval to look at this and extract the data and then see what we find. And I was pleasantly surprised with some of our findings, but also it aligns with kind of what I had seen clinically in the hospital, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I've listened to George talk about these things for years, about which snakes had different effects on people with envenomations, and it was neat to read everything you guys had there. And I have a personal connection to Shands too, which is, they saved my life 4 years ago. So first of all, let me say thank you for what you do up there, and thank you to all those amazing doctors and nurses and staff. It's just incredible place. So now that you've published this paper, do you see you guys taking this to a next step, or do you see advanced treatments coming from this, like maybe changing the way you guys are treating snake bite in general?
Oh yeah, for sure. We're as you know, like kind of snake bite season is coming. Weather's changing. Humans are going out, doing fun things in the environment, and interactions with snakes are increasing. And so, we would like to just raise awareness on the importance of recognizing what our venomous species look like, patterns at which we may encounter them, and just me personally advocating for seeking medical care immediately, and the usage of antivenom. That's really been the most important tool that we have when people are envenomated. And our snakes are a bit dangerous, especially the eastern diamondback. It's a beautiful snake, and we need it in our environment. It's just an amazing part of our food web. But we need to leave that snake alone. And there's a couple folks who didn't do well even with antivenom when they were envenomated with the eastern diamondback. And so I just want to press upon us just letting these snakes be a part of our environment. They're important, but leave them alone. Do not pick them up unless you're a trained professional. That's the majority of our snake envenomations. We're just intentionally handling snakes when we likely shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and a lot of people get envenomated and they take let's wait and see.
Goodness.
Let's wait and see approach,
Sure.
which
Sure.
it seems to be that happens the most with coral snakes, from what I've read and what I've heard. But I just I can't imagine. There's no real reason to ever have your hands on a venomous snake. I tell people this all the time. And if you see somebody doing that, that should not be a person you're hanging out with. That should be somebody you're never spending time with ever again, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you can only imagine some of the stories that we read. People bitten more than once and acting a little bit cavalier around some of these snakes. I'm a person who, I love snakes. I think they're amazing creatures, and have training handling them appropriately in a professional way. But I typically leave them alone, and only would do that in situations like removing them from an environment where it's dangerous for the human and the snake. But unless you have that training, you should avoid doing that. You should reach out to a professional to have them remove a snake out of your environment. And there was multiple people who actually killed a snake and then they were bitten afterwards because of that action. So I also I just think it's important that we just recognize this is a beautiful state, a beautiful environment. Also that these snakes are important to this environment, and we've just got to recognize that we got to leave them be. Just leave them and let them do their thing.
Yeah, I'm always telling people it's you're making a point to make that interaction. You're putting risk at a place that it doesn't need to be. They don't want to have that. They don't want to have an interaction with us. We shouldn't want to have an interaction with them. It's one thing if you have like a rat snake in your house and you're picking up and moving them outside or something. It's a whole different thing if you find yourself for some reason wanting to go kill your local whatever venomous snake it is. Here on the Space Coast we only have 4. Always telling people know what the 4 venomous snake species are, and you can play with the rest of them. You know what I mean? But it's a whole different story.
Sure. And one other thing I'd say is, folks who are, we did see a decent amount of people bitten by the cottonmouth or the water moccasin, obviously inadvertently, but they were, either they just weren't paying attention to like where they were placing their hands or their feet, they're getting out of a kayak or jumping off a boat, and stepped on the snake or, some situation close to water, and then they were bitten. So just be aware that, certain times of year, especially like in these, later spring, early summer months, these snakes are very active. They're out to eat. They've been hibernating, but now they're ready to eat. They're ready to mate. And, as we go out and do fun things, in and around water moccasin is there. And we just need to be aware that where we're placing our hands and our feet.
So you're working on Chagas. You've been working on snakebite for some time now. Is there any other things that are kind of up there on the top of the board you're working on right now?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for asking. And it's relevant to your area, and this is leprosy. Has anyone heard of leprosy in Brevard County?
In Brevard County?
Well, I knew there was somebody who did a study out in the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge a handful of years ago that was looking at leprosy and armadillos, and they said it was
correct.
I think what they found was a very small, it was a small sample size, I think, as far as what they found, they said was light enough where if somebody ever took antibiotics, it would pretty much wipe it out, but it was definitely there. I'm not sure if that's the one maybe I heard it wrong, but that's what I kind of referenced back to in my brain.
Yeah, you're right on that. There's a really great study done out there in Merritt Island looking at armadillos' infection with Mycobacterium leprae. So leprosy or Hansen's disease is an infection from Mycobacterium leprae. And just a fun fact, Brevard County has the highest incidence of leprosy in the United States of America.
What? I
leprosy.
never knew that.
Now, is that because Brevard's one of the few places that have been studied with this, or is that like I mean, has there been other studies done and Brevard
Yeah,
still
this is
hits the
good
top?
question. Good question, Nick. Why? Like, why is Brevard? And what we're finding, so we're doing research. We're studying armadillos. I have a clinic for leprosy here in Gainesville.
Wow.
And we really are, over the next 1 to 2 years, we'll be describing a lot of interesting things with this here in Florida. But we don't understand. We don't understand if there's a couple of dermatologists out there in Merritt Island and in that area who recognizing this disease, and there's been an increasing awareness of just locally acquired leprosy, or what we call toxinous leprosy. And we are isolating other cases though in Florida. Polk County, up here in North Florida, we've had some from Sumter and Lake counties, Hillsborough. So that there's more, with more awareness. There's been more recognition clinically. And
When you're
we're
saying
seeing
cases, these are cases in people that it's jumped over?
yes, human being. Yeah.
These
So,
people that are being diagnosed, are they, how are they being exposed? Are they saying, yes, I had an encounter with an armadillo, or?
Yeah, good thought. Leprosy takes some time for you to develop the symptoms, and it can be several years before you would develop symptoms. And a lot of people never develop any clinical sequelae or any evidence of infection. We suggest around even 5% of people who have been exposed to the bacteria even develop what we term as leprosy. So the vast majority of people who've had exposure to the bacteria never really mount any type of disease from it. Why that 5% does develop kind of what we call leprosy remains to be unknown. There's some genetic predispositions, and there's some immune modulating factors or immune system responses that lead to this. But most importantly is this. Again, I chose another completely neglected disease. It's just this is a biblical disease. It has all kinds of just stigma over the eons of time, and once I started seeing patients here coming to the clinic, I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? And come to find out, like Florida definitely has the most locally acquired cases in the United States. And how are humans being exposed here in Florida? Well, that's the research that needs to be done. So we've been testing soil, we've been testing different things that we may be exposed to that have the bacteria in it, and more to come on that. More to come.
That is fascinating.
And say, has it been, the people who are ending up with this stuff, has it been treatable?
Yeah. So, and that's one of the myths, right? That people over the years of there's nothing we can do. Like, none of that is true. We have antibiotics, different cocktails that we use. It's a long treatment, so most people are treated for at least a year,
Wow.
maybe 2, and sometimes longer. And some of them have, reactions to the bacteria and reactions to the antibiotics. So, we definitely, I do follow my patients pretty closely and monitor for these things. But it is curable. And the most important thing about leprosy and Chagas and a lot of these diseases that take a long time to manifest is getting them to them as soon as possible. Recognizing the early signs and symptoms and then treating. And those folks do much better when we treat early than once they've had kind of later chronic manifestations. So Florida's a wonderful place to live, but also we've got things that we've got to, stop neglecting and bring awareness to them, and hopefully I'm a part of that. That's my goal, just be a part of that discussion.
Well, yeah, you're definitely a part of it with us. This has been pretty incredible. I always jokingly tell people not to lick armadillos, and now I'm glad I make that joke quite often. I had no idea that we were leading the United States in leprosy percentages. That's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, out of all what we deemed as locally acquired cases from a state standpoint, Florida has the most cases.
Interesting. Wow. This has been an amazing
This is something
conversation.
that the tourism board doesn't tell you.
Yeah. Come visit the Space Coast. Just don't play with any armadillos, or take
Leave
a chance
them
of
alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
leave armadillos alone.
Again, leave those wild critters alone. Another fun fact: we likely gave leprosy to armadillos.
Really?
And so M. lepra is a human pathogen. And
that must be a story. That there's got to be a. I'd like the armadillos to tell us that story. I want to know how that happened.
That's another invite for a guest for the podcast. But
no
probably
joke.
many thousands of years ago this happened.
Yeah, now somehow I can hear some conspiracy theorists now saying that we weaponized armadillos. So I can hear already.
Oh no, that's not the case. But
wow, this has been a great conversation, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We'd love to chat with you again. This is excellent.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the work you do and bringing advocacy to our wildlife and our environment, and glad to participate today. So
yeah, thanks for all you do. You guys do up there too. Yeah, if you end up down here in Brevard, let me know. We'll go catch some critters. We will not play with any armadillos, though, I promise.
I may take you up on that.
Yeah, anytime. You're always welcome, sir.
All right, gang. Have a wonderful day.
You too, buddy. Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I remember when that study was going on over there at the Kennedy Space Center, and there was a guy that was looking at armadillos and taking samples, and he said that he had found a light strain of leprosy. It was an antibiotic, leprosy strain that was treatable by antibiotics. But I had no idea that Florida was leading the country, and that specifically Merritt Island. That's mind-boggling to me. Yeah. I mean, I knew Chagas was here. That's terrifying enough. Don't even get me into that. I knew Lyme's disease was here. Don't get me into start with that, because that stuff's terrifying in its own right. But we're throwing leprosy into the chain too. I mean, like, oh, holy moly, man! I can't see myself ever living anywhere else, but I just have to bleach like everything before it goes into the house from now on. Dogs, hold on a second. We need to give you a bath before you come inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's just there's so much stuff that's out there, and you can live your life afraid of it all.
Yeah, I got better things to do.
Yeah.
It's nice to be aware of these things.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah, very nice to be aware of these things.
I first learned about Chagas disease back when we took microbiology.
You hadn't heard of it before that?
No, that was the first time. And back then, so I started diving into the research, and they were still saying then that, we don't have it in Florida. We don't have the kissing bugs here. I was out in my backyard, like, what do you mean we don't? They're literally right here. Like,
you saw it.
Who do I need to tell about this? No. And then everyone I kept saying, hey, by the way, no, you're seeing assassin bug. No, I know what assassin bugs are. I am a gardener.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am telling you, sure enough, we do.
We do. Yeah. We've had them for some time.
Yeah.
Had them for, I don't know if it's been 20 years, but it's been some time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mention it to people all the time, and nobody's like, well, nobody ever goes, well, yeah, of course, we know what that is. It's the same thing like you.
No,
like it's a what? What did what now?
What? Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think you guys have talked about it on a previous show, but
we might have. I think
you have
talked about with Dr. Oz when Dr. Oz was on, which I should have asked Dr. Beatty if he knew Dr. Oz. Dr. Ozaboff when we had him on. Remember, because he was talking about.
For a split second, I was like, we never had Dr. Oz on the show.
We were talking to him about parasites in reptiles and other critters. So I'm sure the two of those guys probably know each other pretty well. Yeah. But yeah, this is wow. Okay, there's nothing else I'm just going to keep saying wow over and over again because my mind's just blown. So anyhow, y'all ready to end this podcast? I think it's a good spot. If you guys want to know more about Dr. Beatty and his research, you can look him up over on the UF page. He's assistant professor of medicine there at UF and at Shands, and we'll add his information into the podcast description. So if you want to check out more about what he's doing, and I'll also add a link to the paper he just published on snakebite, which that freaks people out sometime too, because you're like, well, why is it just one singular bite? No, that's what you call snake bites is snake bite.
That is the plural?
That is the plural of it's the non-plural plural of the thing, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's clear as mud.
Elephant rhino, as they say. All right. Thank you all for tuning in to the EEARSS podcast produced here at Terrier TV by Titusville High School. My name is Frank Robb. That's Bill Curtis. That's Cindy, Cynthia, and we are happy that you took an opportunity to listen to this podcast, and we will catch you all next week. Bye-bye.